you run a government that is constitutional, that is law-abiding, every person is free to live in that country and to have the confidence to know that they won't be intimidated. Nobody is above the law. Whoever does anything wrong will answer to the law. And Uganda therefore became a free country and really modern and democratic.
We have recovered. We have now gone into a mode of development.
Currently, the goal of government is to move from the peasant level, where most of our farmers are, to an industrialized country. Yes, to move to a middle income country. We are doing that by increasing productivity and increasing the exports and increasing the what we process and put on the market.
For milk, we have now moved from 200,000 liters, the whole of Uganda. Now we are talking about 2.5 billion liters of milk. We have maize. The whole of Uganda will not produce 500,000 bags. Now we are about 5 or 6 or 7 million bags. The animal sector, we have now moved to 15 million heads of cattle across the country, from about 5 in 1986. We have the poultry industry. That one was negative. Now we have about 60 million bags. We have moved really. So the agriculture sector suffered during the bad times of those dictators and the wars. It was not spared. But during this time of NRM, we are really moving very fast.
One of the special interest groups that have realized maximum benefits are the women. Before NRM, women struggled doubly hard to obtain any participatory role in the treasures and benefits bestowed upon human beings by divine generosity irrespective of sex. The NRM government ended this by putting them at the forefront in all government activities and private sector. President Yoweri Museveni appointed Dr. Specioza Wandera Kaziwe as the first woman vice president in the history of Uganda. Since 2011, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga has been holding the third highest office of Speaker of the Parliament, having served as a Deputy Speaker for 10 years.
We have at least 33% of the members of Parliament are women, and in Cabinet 35% are women. And yes, we do have a big number of women leaders in leading organizations of government and departments, and it is our government's policy really to promote women's leadership, and it is happening.
Well, this journey of the NRM revolution has been a steady, resilient, continuous revolution that has been guided by the NRM ideology, deliberately following that ideology that has, right from the beginning, guided us, right from when we started the Bush War in 1981, has been that ideology that His Excellency the President has really been explaining very well. And it's that ideology that has been deliberately followed and has brought us this far.
An ideology is what we call in philosophy an ism, ISM. Remember, communism, conservatism. You remember that word, ism. If parties are not based on ideas and are based on individuals, they will not develop. The NRM, when we were in the bush, had one line, the mass line, the line of the people, where political actors act only in the interest of the people, not in the interest of anything else, not in the interest of the elite, not in the interest of foreigners, not in the interest of this group or that or that elite group, but in the interest of the people, the ordinary people. That's what we call the mass line. The mass line. You can call it the line of the people's interest.
NRM ideology.
To prosperity. Live your dream and enjoy your life. Live your dream to...
The success of NRM is attributed to its vision and mission. The vision is having a free, democratic, secure, united, modern, devolved, industrial and prosperous Uganda within a federated and prosperous Africa, while the mission is to transform Uganda from a subsistence, peasant-based pre-industrial society into a modern, prosperous and industrialized society that is united, democratic and secure in a pan-African framework.
Rise and shine. If you are down, please rise and shine. Don't keep down, people, rise and shine.
There were a number of rebellions in the country, and the last rebellion was by Joseph Kony. When that one ended, Uganda has been at the fastest pace in terms of development.
Peace and stability is sustained if the institution of the police is led by competent leaders. The police force has also maintained law and order. These have been supplemented by the restoration of the LDU to step on the high crime rate of gunshots that emerged in early 2017.
You can say that since 1986, the NRM government formed 3,000 officers, and we are now 45,000. And I believe that within a period of about, because we are now recruiting, we are undergoing a recruitment exercise, within a year we shall be 50,000. The police started in 1906. So from 1906 to 1986, those are 80 years, Uganda police had never had headquarters. Now we are in our headquarters and we are expanding. If you move here, you will see a huge accommodation block that is going to accommodate more than 4,000. So it has 4,000 apartments. Now, as I speak, the whole of Kampala is on the grid. We can be able to see what goes on in here. And the monitoring center, the command center is just right in front of us here, there. It is finished, it is fully fledged. Now, we are expanding to highways. We are also expanding to other cities and other towns in Uganda. So, community policing cannot stand on its own. Community policing must move hand in hand with ideological clarity. And that, we didn't have it before 1986. No, it is this government that brought this.
The prison services have also complemented by keeping custody of wrong elements and suspects.
By 1986, I think in abuse of rights. But I can assure you for the last 10 or so years, yes, we have those elements in like others, but you cannot be looking for the first, second, up to 5 in abuse of human rights and find there Uganda prison service. But this has been a systematic effort by the leadership to fight this. We are the first beneficiaries of training, and we are making sure that in our leadership is being emphasized. By 1986, the reoffending rate was about 53. In other words, if you took to prison 100 convicted prisoners, when they come out, 53 would commit other crimes and go back to prison. Right now, it is ranging between 17 and 20. That means that every 100 prisoners, that go through the system of rehabilitation, only between 17 and 20 get back to prison. That means our performance is at 80%.
Kampala expansion. In 1986, Kampala was only ending at Nakawa on the eastern side, Najanankumbi on the south, Busega on the west, and Kawempe on the north. One would justly say that it is made up of 7 hills of Nakasero, Kololo, Lubaga, Mengo, Chibuli, Makerere, Molago, and Nakuru. In 2010, Kampala Capital City was upgraded to an authority remarked Kampala Capital City Authority and made itself accountable organ of the government with the first executive director, Mrs. Jennifer Mosisi. Kampala greatly transformed into a clean city.
Electricity. There was the dam at Jinja, the own force, and the generation of power was about 280 megawatts. As of now, we are talking of over 2,000 megawatts of electricity in Uganda. Jinja was expanded to add on Chira. It's into 2. There is Bujagari, there is Agago, there is Karuma, Isimba. All those have added onto electricity.
Tax collection, I think they were collecting about 7 billion, something like shillings by that time. Now here, we are collecting about 20 trillion now.
In 1986, Uganda had 33 districts. Since then, 79 districts have been created. The purpose was to bring services nearer to the people and to make leaders accountable to their people. The NRM has put in place a youth livelihood program. The Youth Livelihood Program is a rolling government of Uganda program targeting the poor and unemployed youth in all districts of Uganda.
Industrialization. If you want to know what is going as of now, visit some of the supermarkets. I recently found there are refrigerators made in Uganda. There are cookers made in Uganda, both for gas and electricity. There are TVs that are made in Uganda, and Uganda is already exporting mobile phones. So in terms of manufacturing, you need to visit the industrial areas we have in Uganda. There are many industrial parks, and you see what is being manufactured. Largely essential goods are now available in Uganda. Before 1986, nothing was manufactured in Uganda. But at present, so many goods are manufactured in Uganda to the extent that we can now manufacture a vehicle, although it's not yet put to commercial use. You know, there is a process of incubation. You must have the prototype first, then you invest in its mass production.
The part of Africa, the part of Africa, the part of Africa.
There was virtually no tourists coming to Uganda by 1986. This has changed to over 1,505,669 tourists visiting the national parks in Uganda. By 2019, tourism contributed 1 trillion shillings on Uganda's economy. In 2019, tourism earned 45 billion shillings of revenue. The NRM has created a conducive environment that has enabled the construction of hotels. This has boosted the tourism sector as secure accommodation in Uganda is no longer a problem.
Tourism was coming to about 10% of the GDP. That is about almost $2 billion. $2 billion, the contribution to the GDP. That was before COVID. And our target was 4 million visitors by 2021. That was our target. And we're going, our graph, the tourism graph is actually still climbing. Our target by 2021 was 4 million visitors. By the time we went to COVID, we had hit 2 million visitors in Uganda. And the numbers were rising each and every day. Of course, with COVID, these numbers are no more. Yes, but of course, with after COVID, we have put up measures. The government has really now tried to help us to improve our tourism roads. If you check in this year's budget, we put over 200 billion, about 200 billion shillings in the improvement of the tourism roads. We are going to improve all the tourism roads. Those with Maram, because we cannot put tarmac everywhere. National parks, we don't need to put tarmac in the national park. We shall keep them natural but well gravelled roads, so that people can be able to enjoy the ride in these areas.
Like any other institution, challenges are inevitable, as performance can never be 100%. The NRM revolution has experienced a few challenges that are not yet fully resolved.
Here in Uganda, we had a number of tests. We started with the floods. People were worried that the water could destroy the power stations along the Nile. Then we had the floating islands caused by the high water. Again, relying on our internal means, we were able to scoop out. Then we had the landslides in the mountain areas. Then we had the locusts in Karamoja. But for us, we were ready, and we killed all the locusts. Then came COVID-19. I appealed to you, I say, please, this disease is avoidable. I was here many evenings telling you what to do to avoid the virus.
That's how far we have come. Have we achieved everything? No, not yet. Because even Rome was not built in a day. Destruction is easy, construction takes a while. Younger generation, you say you have not seen, you want also to see. What you want to see, you will not manage it. I really request you, talk to the elders to tell you what had happened here in Uganda. I know you have a lot of problems, others are crying of jobs, but these are jobs you can always look into.
Let's maintain our peace. That is the bottom rock, the fundamental. Without peace, nothing. I want the young men not to follow individuals, but to follow ideology. Create credibility in whatever you do.
What I would advise the young generation, that they should always be calm, listen to the advice that is given by the elder people, because they have seen a lot of things, they have seen many dangerous things that can cause people's lives to go.
Insecurity has no order, and nobody owns monopoly over it. And its destructive effort or effect reaches every person. So all this is attributed to one thing: stability that has come to Uganda as a result of having security. That's why we have to credit President Yoweri Museveni.
In the past, when the situation was chaotic under the bad leaders, some people had even gone to the extent of hiding themselves to say, I am a Ugandan. But now everyone is proud to be Ugandan, and we have recovered our image in the world, and Uganda is among the countries that are fastest growing. Uganda is number 5 in the fastest growing economies of the world, and number 2 next to Ethiopia in the African continent. And this has not come without a lot of effort and sacrifice. It has come with a lot of effort, deliberate effort, and the image of Uganda every day, not only in the economy, in sports, Uganda's image is coming up very well. In education, many of the countries neighboring send their children to Uganda, and in the general environment. By the way, Uganda, as I have always said, is our beautiful country, our country, Uganda, of milk and honey, full of fresh water, fresh air, fauna and flora, full of sunshine, the pearl of Africa. There is no better country that I know of in the world than country Uganda. So let's enjoy it, let's develop it together, let's keep it peaceful, and all of us will benefit.
The latest confirmation of trust of the NRM is yet another victory of the re-election of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni for the presidency of Uganda in 2021.
Our country, Uganda, of milk and honey, full of fresh water, full of fresh air, fauna and flora, full of sunshine, the part of Africa, the part of Africa, the part of Africa. Kagumakare baidodo, kagumakare baidodo, kare baidodo, kagumakare baidodo.
A very good evening once again, and a warm welcome to the second edition of News Tonight. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa, and this time round, the lady herself, Elizabeth Nakakoni, joins in on the sign language corner. Voters in Much India Division are dissatisfied in a first story with how the Electoral Commission organized the elections exercise without sensitization to their presiding officers on how to respond to challenges. The voters expressed this while casting their ballots for their mayoral candidates this very day.
Unlike the recent Lord Mayor elections, residents of Makindye have turned up in slightly bigger numbers amid its trying to elect their division mayors. According to Ignatius Ndenawe, presiding officer at Joko Zone polling station in Makindye division, voting materials were brought on time, but the voting exercise was interrupted by rain. With the election process.
It rained in the morning, but and they had stopped the election. Yet we have a hole next year. And they were saying you cannot move 1 inch. Yet in other places like Kasavu, people are voting in LC halls. So this double standard by Electoral Commission, I don't know what we are going to get. Those elections can be challenged. I don't know why. Did they fail to get people?
Meanwhile, candidates in the race confirmed they are ready to accept the outcomes of the elections.
That we are not in a war, we are not in a battle. This is just a game. There must be a winner, there must be a loser. So with the capability and the responsibilities as I have as a speaker in Makindye, I feel I'm the best candidate for this post, being a man.
Only God who knows what is in the box at the end of the day. But I'm sure at the end of the day, Munyanyama will be the winner automatically. When you have no and you have the merit of doing something I have done to the match, at the end of the day, I'll be the winner, whatever it is.
Ngenda kulonza basale abakyala ba single mothers abalemereddwa okuweerera abaana ng'apita mu Kalungi Foundation n'ebitongole ebyenjawulo abaana baddeyo okusoma nga tubafunira basale. N'olwekyo ebyo n'ebirala bingi Makindye division eyagala amaanyi amapya, eyagala mmeeyo ow'amaanyi nga nze sobole okulaakulanya ekitundu n'omuntu wa bulijjo.
Era wano emisa minene nnyo teyali ku manvuuli, emisa gy'okuyita mu 9:10 kubanga manvuuli eno waffe eyeera bwezi.
In these elections, residents were voting for division women councillors, directly elected division councillors and division mayors. Shaidat in Nasaku, UBC.
In Mengo Chisenyi, voters, Mengo Chisenyi Parish, Chisenyi 2 Parish in Kampala, voters voted for their local councillors and division mayors depending on one's competence. The participation was peaceful compared to the just concluded Lord Mayor election, which had a low turnout. The voters are sad that local councillors election is important because these are grassroots leaders who understand the local issues that affect the residents.
Voters in Mengo Kisenyi 2 Parish, Central Kampala and surrounding areas turned up in big numbers to elect their local councillors and division mayors. Though the exercise was interrupted by rain and some voting irregularities, the mood was serene. At most polling stations, the voting was unique because youth, elder and women voted according to individual merit but not affiliated to one's political party. During the recent elections, voting in this parish was along political party inclination.
Today, voters there are many because we are voting locally.
Olwaleero lwaki tutunudde ku busobozi kuba nti nno bajja kukola.
It's my right. I had to vote my leaders. These are very important leaders for me.
So it's my duty to elect someone who represent the ideas of my concern.
So we have to vote these people who sleep with us, who know what to eat, what we eat, how we live, who can understand us better.
The voters at the polling stations of Lubiri Triangle, School View, Church Area, Chiganda and Kasato, among others, say Monday's polls is vital because the leaders at grassroots help mitigate their problems, including garbage collection and fixing poor roads.
Naye singa tuteeka omuntu anaasobola n'atwala eddoboozi lyaffe mu gavumenti ne batuwa obuyambi ne buddawa wansi.
Because these are the people who are reaching to each and every individual
these are the people that drives our information straight from the down level to the top most leaders.
If you have a problem, you go to the council. If the road is damaged, you go to the council. Yeah.
You must help us to you must help us to put us what up there.
Once voted into office, the aspiring candidates pledged to work for development and unity of all slum communities without political party segregation and tribalism. Robert Bwaita, Sudat Kai, UBC.
The election in Entebbe municipality, like elsewhere, suffered low voter turnout, as explained by our reporter Sula Kagugube, who visited several polling stations in Entebbe.
The agents started complaining against the army, so the army had to create chaos such that their issues should go. For me, at that time, I had my phone, I was using my phone, I had a recorder, I had my watch, and they are now nowhere to be seen. They have teared my jacket, they have taken my ID.
Of unemployment and even the housing. So when we take over this place, if given the chance, if given the opportunity, I hope to address some of those things. We're going into a world which is technologically advanced, and we need to understand that for us to be able to compete, we need to advance technology. My aim is to see how we turn Entebbe into a financial tech hub. Also, being a city, we are getting more human capital, which is labor. If we can train skill and market our labor, it would be of great help.
There are quite a good number of things which I want to bring for the people of Entebbe. There I can mention a few of them. One, I want to talk to the government and they construct us a bridge connecting Buwaya to Nachiwogo. Entebbe being a peninsula, Entebbe being a tourism municipality, I want to make Entebbe a tourism center by developing or improving the first parliament at Inalo, by improving botanical gardens, because botanical gardens is the biggest botanical gardens in the whole Africa, and it is the first to be created in the entire Africa. Entebbe is the entrance of Uganda, because we have the airport, we have the state house, we have the zoo. Entebbe is surrounded by water. I want to link Entebbe to other towns like Kisumu.
Like the exercise is generally peaceful, and the turn up is a bit higher than the LC5 elections. However, we have a challenge on the polling areas that have armed officers as voters. These armed officers are trampling on the rights of the polling agent, the rights of the candidate, over having a register at the polling station, and over the distance, the positioning of the agent versus the presiding officer. We are emphasizing assertiveness on the side of our polling officials, our polling agents, and we shall advocate for fairness in this election.
Ntungamo municipal mayoral elections have registered normal voter turnout, although with alleged irregularities of vote rigging by polling agents and candidates.
Candidates in the Ntungamo municipal mayor race are accusing one another of buying off election officials, fearing voters and engaging in violence. There are also allegations of military involvement to stuff ballots and vote multiple times as voters queued up to exercise their constitutional right to vote leaders of their choice. The incumbent mayor, Jacob Kafureka Jaka Jex, accuses his opponent, Moheki Hakim Romushana, of voter bribery.
Batamaye Ruchinanga Kabagenda, Batamaye Chikoni, twakuze turere yandi nagara kubanke bijo. Kuba twabenteka tekango abantu yango abare bisi umuntu narega guru naruga kapuchorwa naruga masindi no maye na decide nyo muntu wantunga
achimu okujabirira mugenzi wanjye wonyesimbire nawe ko mwamije agaje kusinkambenti still naenda kukosa ubukoryo bwo kushomba abantu ari nashomba abantu na leta tukamanyire abantu abo yaba bine voters cards konka na hati ari nashomba monitoringa nabandi bapolitinga voters nanka cards twabakwatira mu office ya Red Cross bari aho bakimbiye hozaho nabajya ngo umuntu bwabo ko upaka card bakabonaga tunkatsi tukumanya abo ko bamwe bana twashanga bari abana bishobora bayintana.
Kafureka, the NRM flag bearer, also accused the party for playing double standards and involving the army to vote at different polling stations. However, the accused Romushana said the Electoral Commission is acting in favor of Kafureka. He said they had switched polling officials whom they thought would either be independent or favor him in the process.
Mukasheshe bakana bahindura aba presiding officers zo mukashesha polling station kandi bakakana bakekaho agency baje agency bano ba presiding officers kuna buzezo kumuza baje ngo bakikora general or polling station kunga tiko kitamazima ngo polling station zone
kayunka jenda jo misho karutine songa sana korabeho okuchankaranya nk'ibyantunga muko bimanya hazaho ogura bansamwe abantu ashaya mushanzu munana normal bacha kushisha abantu ashamshanzu munana.
The municipal mayor elections has 4 candidates: incumbent Jacob Kafureka, who has been in office since 2010 when the municipality was created and had previously served as the town council chairperson, and Jaji Muheki, the Eastern Division chairperson. The others are Perez Katabara, a farmer and businessman, and Benjamin Agaba, a 28-year-old contestant. In the Monday elections, parties accused each other of also conniving with polling officials to allow non-voters participate in the election. There are 19,513 voters in Tungamo municipality voting in 20 polling stations. The best turn-up in a single election has been 7,000 voters, with the most recent election attracting only 54% of the voters.
Election observers from the Coalition of Electoral Democracy in Uganda, in execution of their duties in Mbale Division and Councillor polls, have observed that the entire electoral process was characterized with the exchange of money to buy voters and electoral malpractice that may attract legal suits.
The voting exercise started by 8 a.m. in Mbale and it was calm. At Kibiniko Church of Uganda polling station in Industrial City Division, where one of the electorates confessed voting for John Mukamba, an independent candidate, voting started at exactly 7:30 a.m. Whereas elections in several parts are often characterized with different electoral malpractice, Mukamba says he has done his part and the turnaround is for the electorates to decide, though he's confident that he may carry the day.
And as you are seeing the voting so far, in most of the areas that I have had reports, it is peaceful. Much as yesterday we had the challenges because some other candidates were moving with the fleets of vehicles, with the security, they were intimidating people. Even they would surround some of our people who were distributing letters for agents. They beat them up, tore our letters for agents, but thank God we worked the whole night because we had to go and get others and make sure the letters reach. But I feel...
However, in the public domain at Nauyo Primary School polling station, reports of land grabbing remain at the center of every conversation, and this time round, the voters think leaders should take the matter on agenda, among other issues like health, education, and roads. However, an observer from the Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda, Laheme Rabo said that his interim report points at monetization of the electoral process associating the low turn-up to money. While electoral malpractices are key here, Joyce Chituru, the only female candidate in the Industrial City Division race, she's hoping for the best. Other candidates in the Industrial City Mayor race are Masaba Mohamud Motenyo, the NRM flag bearer, Kuranga Fred, an independent, Khalid Massa of FDC, Alan Makweta of NUP, Ishaka Massa independent, and Moses Chisolo also independent.
In Kasese municipality, the mayor and mayoral polls had a low voter turnout compared to the recent presidential, parliamentary and LC5 elections. This has in turn affected the candidates ahead of vote tally, which by news time was still ongoing.
According to the NRM candidate Godfrey Kabyanga, in places like Bulembia Division, the turnout was low, with the only change in tide at Central Division.
I've already cast my vote at my polling station, that is in Namuga South, in Bulembia Division, and the situation is calm, very calm. People are quiet, people are voting peacefully, but the turnout is not yet good.
He however said that although Kasese municipality had registered low voter turnout, he was optimistic of winning the elections.
I've transformed the town. If you see the last 10 years I've been there, Kasese has been transformed. Kasese has changed, at least brought order in the town. You can see the greening, you can see the beautification, you can see the cleanliness of the town and the orderliness of the town. So I strongly believe people will reward me for those improvements. Look at the market, we have now a new market.
A section of journalists in Kasese were today denied access to cover some polling stations for reasons not usual to them.
It was around noon, one of our journalists in Kasese called Kabuta Joel. We were together at Bulembia polling station. A police constable said that we shouldn't access the polling area, and really we had identified ourselves.
The FDC mayoral candidate Charles Kahindo also witnessed the events that unfolded between journalists and authority, which he regrets is happening in a democratic country.
And in Jinja, the mayor and councillor elections attracted a big number of competitors, and this was the situation that side.
By 8 a.m., residents in Jinja had already gathered at various polling stations to cast their votes for mayors and councillors. The position for Jinja City 1000 Division attracted 7 candidates, but only 6 were present, with the late Sam Mubi Aliwo missing after succumbing to COVID-19 a few months back. The newly created Southern Division had several candidates including Nassa Ashraf, William Ebusa, Kirunda Mbarak, Lubega Rashid, Simon Kasiri, and Mosisiki Bujungu. The Electoral Commissioner was yet again mentioned for wrong reasons at Main Street Primary School, where a wrong voters register was presented. The battle, however, isn't only about the mayors, but also councillors including Ivan Kwisiri, Angela Birungi, Abe Mwase, James Waiswa, Aloysius Kasolo, and Duncan Kawanguzi.
In Gulu, the voting and the election exercise started off with frustrating incidents as the delay in the delivery of election materials, which left some voters threatening to abandon the exercise. Some candidates also cried foul over allegations of involvement of the UPDF 4th Division, but their fears were allayed by the division spokesperson Major Telesfa Turia Mohamia.
By 8 a.m., several people had come to vote at Laro P7 polling station in Laro Peche district, but were frustrated by failure by the Electoral Commission to deliver election material, and thus were threatening to abandon the exercise. While people were relatively few at a Laro polling station, at St. Jude polling station in Badega Laibi district, by 9:20 the few voters alleged that they were intimidated by security officers, thus the low turn-up. FDC candidate Lukomwa Patrick Oula, who is competing against Aboga Moses, shares the same sentiments of the voters. There was tension at Kasubi Central Polling Station where Uganda People's Defence Forces officers voted, and it took intervention of the division spokesperson to allay the fears of the residents. The Gulu City Division mayoral race for Larok Peche Division is between the interim Gulu City Mayor George Labeja, Abonga Moses, NRM's Francis Okot, DP's Otim Joffrey, Kelly Komakech and Patrick Omaya. The contest in Badega Laibi Division is between Oweka Dennis, Okelo Patrick, Lumumba Patrick, Oluba Fred, George Ogwete and Odokonyero Richard.
In Iganga, the elections became chaotic, with ugly scenes witnessed at some polling stations, which resulted into running battles at Bilal Nakavule polling station. The contest for Iganga municipality mayor seat alone was the most heated, with 12 candidates lined up for the slot.
In stark contrast to what happened during the local government elections, voters in Iganga municipality have embraced the municipality and city divisions and councillors elections. The tightest battle is for mayor between the incumbent David Balaba, who is on an independent ticket, National Unity Platform's Bamu Lulenzi, and the National Resistance Movement candidate Asumani Ndabasada. As early as 9 a.m., the election process was underway in peaceful mode, with no signs of it turning otherwise. But like has become evident during this electoral period, the situation became tense at Bilali polling station in Nakavule, with running battles between rival supporters that pelted stones in each other's direction. It's at this polling station that National Unity Platform mayoral candidate Bamu Lulenzi cast his ballot and immediately castigated the unrest caused by mainly youth that allegedly wanted that polling station cancelled.
Iganga town tena mkulembezi wa ntalo ayuko na Bamu Lulenzi adogeta abantu bona oyo mbwene nga akana kufuka meya ali kuba abantu bajo kufuga mo bungana wanafuka meya jakuba chitia.
Uganda police ably intervened with several arrests that quelled the situation that was on the verge of turning fatal.
Purely, we are here for law and order and to prevent crime. So, a group of people, they wanted to disrupt the peaceful exercise we are having. So we had to step in quickly to intervene. We had to use tear gas and we dispersed them peacefully.
But by then, damage had already been done, with many voters opting out in fear of losing their life during course of carrying out their constitutional mandate. The other challenge, like has been since the start of this electoral process, was the biometric machines that up till now still fail to perform.
In Kisoro, people remained stationed at several polling stations waiting for the outcome of the polls for their respective candidates in the division and councillor race, despite flaring reports of Electoral Commission officials likely to connive with closest opponents to turn the vote otherwise.
In Kisoro, the voting started as early as 7:30 p.m. and there was seemingly respect to the rules of the game. However, unconfirmed reports started trickling in, pointing to the fact that there was underlying plans to have other candidates rigged out. The situation to different supporters was not a normal occasion to treat lightly. People here have opted to remain vigilant with no retreat from polling stations until the vote count and declaration of the respective winners in the division mayor and councillor race is done.
Ikiri Nyaruyaga naho bafasha abantu batari muri register bari gutora mu buryo bafasha umuntu wari ugiye gutora bagasa akaza batosheje undi wari ugiye gutora nyirako araza asanga bamaze kumutikinga intambara ni higire iremeye.
Despite of reports that some electoral officials are mapping out for connivance to rig out some candidates, Mbonigaba, who has resorted to prayers, he's optimistic that the God he believes in will deliver his victory on his side.
Ekisolo yino poliisi egoba abantu nga kimanye kiri enyaluyaga bakutte abantu 8 nga batoola nga tebali mulegensa kati osembyeyo bamufashe wanyuma kyekutola nyiri polisi.
Owen Ahimbisibwe is contesting on the FDC ticket, but earlier in the day he was uncertain about the outcomes given the low turn-up of voters at the polling stations.
Yabwa Nexon municipality achiro mukirishena atera karuru kanje konka ecyobusasirizo batana ptia abampango abo kugira ngo abantu bakaruzinga muraro akurujuro burubwa aba president okubwagenzere akabamu emivuyo nakiso abantu baruzinga muraro yo kugira ngo baze gutera karuru abamwe bashitamiro mukabategereze ngo babahereze sente babone kuza gutera karuru so nyowe niyo nshonga bwenchi ndeba batana berinji.
However, reports of bribers of voters to center stage, with Christopher George Okello being a victim of bribery. He's alleged to have picked a bribe from one of the contestants on the councillor position.
None rero none ndabivuye hano mucara urukumva majya buri muntu wese natwe ni rwego bari kuririraho.
Well, as the electoral exercise was marred with bribery reports, Jacqueline Nyiramugesha says elections in Kisoro municipality were conducted in a peaceful environment. The race for the division mayor in Kisoro has 3 candidates, Owen Ahimbisibwe, Richard Ndiana and John Mbonigaba, tussling it out in a hotly contested race.
The story from Kisoro will take a very short break. Thanking you so much for watching. We have updates from other places. Keep it with us. UBC News Tonight.
Ugandans, as we mark the 35th anniversary of NRM, on behalf of the board, management and staff of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, PPDA, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all Ugandans on reaching this important day in our country's history. I would also like to use this same opportunity to congratulate His Excellency the President, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and all our compatriots on the recently concluded national elections. The authority looks forward to fulfill engagements with government ministries, departments and agencies to realize the effective implementation of NRM manifesto for the period 2021-2026. PPDA believes in procurement that delivers. I wish you all the best as we celebrate this day.
A human rights defender is anyone working to promote and protect human rights in a non-violent manner. This often exposes them to risk. Are you a woman human rights defender, a journalist, legal professional, youth and/or person with a disability engaged in defending the rights of others, and your right has been violated or abused in the process, or you have encountered someone defending people's rights whose rights have been violated? Contact the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda on toll-free line 0800 100 250. Or helpline 0778 576 852.
A Myoga program is a presidential initiative on wealth and job creation meant to financially empower excluded Ugandans to move them from subsistence to the money economy and market-oriented production through provision of capacity building and access to seed capital. The program is open to all Ugandans organized in parish-based associations and constituency-based SACCOs operating the following enterprises: boda bodas, women entrepreneurs, carpenters, salon operators, taxi operators, restaurant owners, welders, market vendors, youth leaders, persons with disabilities, produce dealers, mechanics, tailors, journalists, performing artists, veterans, fishermen, and elected leaders. If you are eligible to benefit from this program, contact the Microfinance Support Center today by calling the toll-free number 0800-201010 or 0800-120024. This message is brought to you by the Microfinance Support Center Limited, supported by the Government of Uganda.
Fellow Ugandans, as we mark the 35th anniversary of NRM, on behalf of the board, management, and staff of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, PPDA, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all Ugandans on reaching this important day in our country's history. I would also like to use this same opportunity to congratulate His Excellency the President, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and all our compatriots on the recently concluded national elections. The authority looks forward to fulfill engagements with government ministries, departments, and agencies to realize the effective implementation of NRM Manifesto for the period 2021-2026. PPDA believes in procurement that delivers. I wish you all the best as we celebrate this day.
What do you need as a voter on polling day? Here are the requirements to vote. Present yourself to the polling station where you are registered as a voter. Present your voter identification documents. This could be your national identity card or your voter location slip. If you do not have any of the above, you can still be assisted by the presiding officer to check and confirm your particulars on the National Voters Register. The presiding officer will authenticate your identity using the biometric voter verification machine. After verification, you will be issued with a ballot paper. Proceed to the Benson and mark the candidate of your choice using either the tick or the thumbprint. Fold the ballot paper lengthwise as shown by the presiding officer. Proceed to the ballot box and carefully insert the ballot paper inside. The polling assistant will mark the cuticle of your finger to indicate that you have voted. Exercise your right to choose your leaders. Please note that the polling station opens at 7 a.m. in the morning and closes at 4 p.m. in the evening. Please get your polling station in time to vote. Also, please visit www.ec.or.ug for more information on your voter details. This message is brought to you by the Electoral Commission.
UBC News Tonight, let's go business. Chaos ensued in Fort Portal City Division elections at Nyaburara polling station following a row between candidates' agents and Nyaburara Ward Local Council Chairman. The area LC1 Chairman, George Baguma, is accused of by the agents of campaigning and bribing voters near a polling station as the election exercise went on.
This scuffle between the agents and the chairman lasted for half an hour, disrupting the election. It is alleged that the chairperson was also an agent for a candidate for whom he was campaigning and bribing voters.
We have got news. He's bribing guys. He's telling people to go. You can vote this. You go the other side. You get money. Please, you go inside. That is an agent. Let him see inside.
The agents wanted the chairperson to be stationed inside the polling station, something he defied, claiming he's on duty as the area local chairman.
I'm an agent of one of the candidates. So,
Chaos then ensued attracting security officers who then ordered the chairperson to get inside the polling station in order for the voting exercise to continue.
This is why it's bribing people. Bribing how? This is an yes. Very good. That's what we want. I'll get you.
At other polling stations, voting materials such as basins were not enough, prompting the officials to improvise. Fort Portal Central Division mayor race has 6 contenders, while North Division has 2.
I'm telling you the truth. The second time I just arrest you. Just again, come and we go. Afan, you keep him there. You come here, then they will arrest you.
That was in Fort Portal, where the LC chairman had to be disciplined by the residents. Moving on, as Uganda witnesses elections for municipality and city division chairpersons plus councillors, Tororo elders are blaming government for the poor service delivery in most municipalities there. The elders allege that the new methodology of first remitting local revenue to the national treasury and then return only substantial for local work is denting progress.
Toro municipality, located in eastern Uganda, is the main entry and exit point to the country and has a population of about 42,016 people according to the 2014 population census. But whereas the municipality has for the past 36 years realized infrastructure developments ranging from roads to commercial buildings, the town is still troubled with challenges of garbage management. It generates garbage to a tune of about 70 tons per day, but only 50 tons are collected and the rest left to rot in the streets. Though this is a purely technocrat problem, the mess as a result of garbage has impacted heavily on all incumbent leaders that are blamed by the electorate for a disservice that has health implications. With today being yet again another time to decide on the next leaders, we ask whether the day is worth celebrating amidst these challenges resulting from central government control of fund that limit the financial power of local leaders to perform.
This is a day whereby people are going to ask for accountability for the current leaders, which I know very well that those leaders who are not been doing well, they're not going back to the seat. But those who have been doing well, they're going back to the seat.
Perhaps maybe the team is not working well, and it is upon the people now to decide who they really feel, because they know all of us, and I am very sure they know all our capacities and the capabilities.
Paul Sande Emolot was a mayor in Toro municipality between 1998 to 2001. To him, commercialization of today's politics is to blame for messy situation in the town.
Because the other thing now is monetarized. So long as you have your money, you can be elected. So with that, you can't get political leaders. So that's the problem. And that is the difference I'm seeing. Because by that time, I was doubling as the mayor and also the speaker. So I had councillors who deliberate, and you really know, you see that these are brains. That's why you find that we are able to address many issues that time.
But to Thomas Okoth Nyalulu, who served as mayor between 1992 and 1993 before being appointed RDC, government's abuse of powers of decentralization is instead to blame.
The business of collecting money and sending it to the center, and then the center keeps bringing back at whatever rate and so forth, has disorganized a number of local governments, for that matter municipalities, because you cannot program yourself to work without knowing when you will get the money from central government. Now, if they were collecting the money and retaining the money here, it is easy to plan for that money.
But despite all the challenges, the two elderly former political leaders believe all is not lost on prosperity of Tororo, whose upgrade to city status is long overdue.
Whatever we may do now, we must first do it as owners of the town and be responsible enough. For example, the garbage we are talking about. Sometimes you may have skippers there for throwing garbage, but then somebody comes and throws it down instead of throwing it inside the container, which is a level of irresponsibility on our part as citizens of the municipality.
This town to develop, it has many issues. It has to have a mayor who's business-minded, focused, down to the ground, cooperative, to get people's views on areas where there are gaps.
Tororo Municipality mayor race attracted 9 candidates, the vast of whom were independent candidates.
Meanwhile, High Court in Kampala has ordered security operatives surrounding former presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's home to vacate with immediate effect. According to Justice Michael Erubu's judgment, for security operatives to surround Kyagulanyi's home, it infringes on his personal liberties guaranteed in the Constitution.
It's now 1 week and some days since security operatives surrounded Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's home located in Magere, Kasangati Town Council in Wakiso District. Following this and the infringement on Kyagulanyi and his wife's rights, it prompted NUP lawyers to file a case in the High Court seeking court to order security operatives to vacate his home, for which they say was an infringement on his civil liberties. In pursuit of the submissions on both sides, Monday morning, Justice Michael Elebu made his judgment on the matter filed before. In the judgment, which was read by the Deputy Registrar, Jamson Karemani, court ruled in favor of Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. According to Justice Elebu, for security operatives to surround Kyagulanyi's home, it's an infringement on his personal liberties granted in the Constitution.
Having considered all the circumstances of this case, it is my finding that the continued indefinite restriction and confinement of the applicant to his home is unlawful. In the result, it has been established that his right to personal liberty has been infringed.
Court also noted if the state has insufficient evidence that Kyagulanyi committed any offences and a danger to society, it's at liberty to file a case in court against him. Justice Elebu added his ruling that was no insufficient evidence produced by the state that the applicant Kyagulanyi is a threat to life and public property, as earlier reported that there was reports of him holding public demonstrations refuting the outcome of the election results.
When the applicant are unlawful, it is hereby ordered that they are lifted. Consequently, an order for restoration of the personal liberty of the applicant is hereby issued.
However, Justice Elebu ordered Kyagulanyi to observe the standard operating procedures of COVID-19 required by the Ministry of Health. After court, NUP lawyers led by Counsel George Musisi told the press that they were in agreement with the details of the ruling to the letter.
Court said that the restrictions on personal freedom are so important that restrictions on them should not be casual, and the restriction on someone's liberty should not be indefinite.
This is not the first time court is giving such orders to security operatives. The same orders were once given to operatives in 2016 to vacate Dr. Kizza Besigye's home located in Kasangati. However, it was not complied with.
In case the state doesn't comply, that will be disobedience of a lawful court order. The law stipulates how people who disobey court orders should be treated. We shall initiate contempt of court proceedings seeking arrest warrants against the said officers in their individual capacities, those who will tend to disobey the lawful orders of court.
he filed this case against the Attorney General, Commander Defence Forces, General David Muhoozi, and Head of Police, Martin Okoth-Ochola. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, in filing this case, informed court that after casting their vote on 14th January 2021, they went back to their home at Magere Gayaza in Wakiso district, only to be sealed off by security in the evening.
On the same issue, the Uganda police are constraining to keep surveillance on the former presidential candidate Kyagulanyi Ssentamu movement despite High Court directive of vacating his premises in Magere. The police spokesperson Fred Enanga, while addressing the media, acknowledged having received information of the court directive and urged the subject to comply with the standing directives of preventing him from unlawful acts.
Police have affirmed they will vacate the residence of former presidential candidate Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert in Magere, Wakiso district, as per the court directive. The police spokesperson Fred Enanga says the force is ready to withdraw its forces but will maintain surveillance on the subject movements.
We would like to urge the new president to also abide by the provisions of the court ruling and strictly observe the SOPs as guided by the High Court. And as a Ugandan, he has an obligation to remain law-abiding and observe rule of law. We shall, however, as a prerogative of the police, maintain our surveillance just to ensure that it does not break the law during this period. Remember, it's an aftermath of the elections, and we have to ensure that the security situation is maintained.
Police has also distanced itself from allegations that it had a hand in the demise of Bishop Kagwa as being portrayed on different social media channels.
Circulating false propaganda that the late Bishop Emeritus Kagwa, who died recently due to natural causes, was allegedly given poison by AIGP Kasindi Hassan.
Meanwhile, traffic police has released new conditions regulating vehicle ownership transfer. The acting director, Traffic and Road Safety, Lawrence Nwabine, says transfer should be complete within 14 days after the purchase, and failure attracts a fine of not less than 6 million shillings.
A training ground for practical lessons. No tricks. You should have a training ground where you take your students for practicals. You should have a register of the students who come to your driving school. You should also have a classroom independent of your office.
Traffic police is also advising garage owners to surrender all registered number plates in their possession to the licensing authority before operations kick off.
You are supposed to take back the plates, registration plates, to the licensing authority. Failure to do that, you commit a serious offense. Therefore, I take this opportunity to warn garage owners that beginning today,
the traffic department has tasked driving schools to revise their curriculum and share all information with the police for proper guidance. Abdul Nasser, Lukomwa, UBS News.
The International Crimes Division Court Monday started hearing the case in which the commander of Allied Democratic Forces, Jamil Mukulu, and 37 others are facing 37 charges of murder, aggravated robbery, and treason. The hearing, which took place at Luzira Maximum Prison, is before Justice Michael Erubu, Lady Justice Lydia Mugambe, and Lady Justice Susan Okalanyi. This hearing has been held at Luzira Maximum Prison in order to prevent spread of the COVID-19 virus. The NRA Day is celebrated annually to commemorate the Guerrilla fighters who took over power in 1986. As the NRM government looks forward to celebrations of the NRA Liberation Day, 26 January 2021, a one-hour documentary dubbed The Achievement of the NRM Revolution has been launched at a function held at the Uganda Media Center. Tony Geoffrey Owana, Presidential Advisor on Archives of the National Resistance Army, launched the documentary on behalf of Security Minister General Eli Tumwine, who is away on state duties.
It was on 26 January 1986 when the then NRA, now NRM, took over power from Generals Tito Okello Lutwa and Basilio Oral Okello, who were then running the government together.
Whether I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
In 2015, President Yoweri Museveni launched a book that talked about the history and the inception of the NRA that uplifted the political, social, and economic transformation of the then and present Uganda.
The NRM, when we were in the bush, had one line, the mass line, the line of the people, where political actors act only in the interest of the people, not
in bid to ensure the current generation appreciates why the NRA went to the bush to liberate Uganda. A documentary to that end has been launched.
Because there is a general belief that Abazukuru have less time to read, they rather view and listen, is why General Tumwine and his colleague decided to do this video as well.
Presidential Advisor on National Resistance Army Archives, Muzei Geoffrey Tony Owana, launched the documentary on behalf of Security Minister General Eli Tumwine.
I hereby declare this video officially launched as part of celebrations marking the 35th anniversary of the revolution of the National Resistance Movement. So help me God.
According to Mzee Owana, the documentary will help in transforming the mindset of youth, majorly those who attempt to take part in unlawful riots that at times lead to loss of innocent lives.
But the fact that we are here and our sons and daughters are here and their sons and daughters are here means that you cannot assume that people know what you are talking about. Some of you are younger than this government. So you really deserve to be given some of this information so that you can make a fair comparison of then and now.
Meanwhile, UBC TV had a one-on-one with Professor Mwambusha Ndebesa, who called for political consensus to keep this day relevant in the history of Uganda.
The time when we used it to commemorate 25th of January, Idi Amin. There was a time we used to commemorate 27th, I think, of June or July. That was Heroes Day. That's when Obote came back to Busheng. All those days have been forgotten. I can foresee this one also being forgotten if NRM gets out of power without a political consensus.
For UBC TV News, Helen Barbara, Gizamba.
The loss by ministers in the recently concluded parliamentary elections has been partly attributed to false confidence that could have been developed against their opponents. Uganda's ambassador to Burundi, General Matayo Chaligonza, says that the ministers underestimated their opponents, leading to their losses. He was speaking with regard to recently held general elections, where he justified the house arrest that former presidential candidate Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert has been subjected to.
When these two women met at the nomination venue at Kiboga District Headquarters in October 2020, it was a moment of sharing pleasantries. Ruth Nankabirwa, the government chief whip, sought to retain her parliamentary seat, while Christine Kaya aimed at dethroning her. They both made promises to the electorate and sold their manifestos.
Tarmacking some of the roads around our town councils is my program.
We have farmers who do not have linkages to inputs
That is a serious challenge here.
But at the end of the day, both could not be winners. Government Chief Whip Ruth Nankabirwa lost to Christine Kaya. Nankabirwa is just an example of over 20 ministers, both at cabinet and state ministerial levels, that lost in the recent parliamentary elections. But what could have gone wrong? This is the question that we put to Uganda's ambassador to Burundi, General Matayo Chaligonza.
Well, they thought they were ministers, but people in the villages have also high expectations of them.
Chaligonza faults the ministers for what he describes as assuming that victory was obvious, only to lose to little-known newcomers.
These days, a minister is supposed to build the schools. A minister is supposed to bury everybody who dies in his constituency. He's supposed to build roads, bridges, which are government, responsibilities. But because our political ideologues have not been good enough.
It is not, however, a cause for worry, as this is not a total loss, if only the ruling National Resistance Movement could reorganize itself.
This election here has been a bit trying, but the COVID has made it very difficult because we could not go and show our antiques in campaigns, in talking and convincing the people. President Museveni chose to go scientific.
Chaligonza's assertion is not far from that recently made by State Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Musa Echweru, who wants the NRM Secretariat overhauled.
We really think that when we are done with this election, this secretariat, we must sit and frankly dissect it.
As for presidential elections, which incumbent Yoweri Museveni won, Chaligonza welcomes the victory, emphasizing how experience is still needed in Uganda's political leadership.
Ordinarily, I would say Bobi Wine is not experience. Somebody comes, I have plan B. What is plan B? You have not told us plan B. The plan A is the campaigns and the winning of the election. But plan B, is it war? Is it moving at night? Night dancing? Or what is this? Because it is kept obscure.
In the recent presidential and parliamentary elections, NRM retained the presidency, while a number of ministers lost their parliamentary seats, including the Vice President, Edward Kiwanuka Sekandi. As the process of elections nears its last phase, what now remains is rebuilding institutions for socio-economic development, something Ambassador Chaligonza emphasizes. Henry Okurut, UBC.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator Rosa Malango has urged all stakeholders to hold dialogue on how to overcome current challenges and transform the current situation in regard to education amidst COVID-19. Malango was officiating at the commemoration of International Day of Education, a function that coincided with the opening of a community library at Incredible Youth International Center at Kavembe Town in Mukono.
COVID-19 has created a child rights crisis. According to the UN Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, the pandemic has created the largest disruption of education systems, affecting nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries across the world. As Uganda joins the rest of the world to commemorate the International Day of Education, the UN Residence Coordinator Rosa Malango has called upon stakeholders to invest in education.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Uganda, we must seize this moment to rapidly modernize the education system. We must leverage the digital learning to unlock transformational change at a national scale, reaching every child and young person with quality learning by connecting them to the internet.
Ms. Malango reiterates the need for Uganda to find ways to invest in green industrialization and the knowledge economy in order for the country to achieve its national vision and the sustainable development goals.
The great strides we have witnessed in health, agribusiness, and production require a large community of researchers, scientists, entrepreneurs, teachers, etc., who can exchange knowledge, create jobs, share solutions, and empower the next generation.
Acting Director, Directorate of Industrial Training at the Ministry of Education and Sports, Mr. Katonda Patrick, urges parents to play their role in educating their children.
But as a parent, have you done your work? The hand begins from home.
The founder of the Incredible Youth Coalition, Brian Ntwatwa, says the importance of coming up with a library is to make sure every student accesses free books to read in order to broaden their knowledge and understanding.
We are here as we commemorate the International Day of Education to bring something practical and to also to appeal to everyone from the private sector, from the government, from the schools, from each and everyone, to create something that would add value. Education should not necessarily stop in classroom only, but should also be able to go a long way.
This year's International Day of Education is commemorated under a theme, Recover and Revitalize Education for the COVID-19 Generation. Jane Ngaramcha, UBC News.
Shopping needs, come to Capital Shoppers. We have a variety of items like foods, garments, cosmetics, and all sorts of drinks. Enjoy your shopping experience at affordable prices in our fully stocked branches in the following areas: in Tinder Station Road, opposite Makere Business School along Portbell Road, Justice Street opposite Nakasero Market, and Garden City on Yusuf Lule Road. To all our customers and suppliers, we thank you for your continuous support. Stay safe, wash your hands, sanitize, and wear your mask always.
Fellow Ugandans, as we mark the 35th anniversary of NRM, on behalf of the board, management, and staff of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, PPDA, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all Ugandans on reaching this important day in our country's history. I would also like to use this same opportunity to congratulate His Excellency the President, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and all our compatriots on the recently concluded national elections. The authority looks forward to fulfill engagements with government ministries, departments, and agencies to realize the effective implementation of NRM Manifesto for the period 2021-2026. PPDA believes in procurement that delivers. I wish you all the best as we celebrate this day.
The number of street vendors in Kampala is steadily increasing every day, leading to street congestion since most of the merchandise is taking up space of what one would call walkways. The question though is Kampala Capital City Authority, KCCA, failing to take charge, and the vendors have taken up the city center in a bid to earn a living? Our reporter could have an answer in this report.
The vendors can't take over the city. KCCA is in charge of the city and the government is in charge of the city. We are in charge. We, however, had a glitch We had so many people coming out of the COVID lockdown. The economy was so poor. Our people didn't have, some of them didn't actually have food, and they came out to sell the little they have to have a livelihood.
Millions of Ugandans commute to the city centre to transact on a daily. This includes street traders and vendors that occupy the streets, and this leads to congestion. Where do all these hawkers and vendors come from every day?
These are our people. They come from amongst us. They come to find a living. Uganda is ranked among the top countries in entrepreneurship. And we thank that for the government. We give credit. Once we see such things coming up, it is the opening of the mind. The president talks of the abundance that has been created in Uganda. It is not just production abundance, but also the entrepreneurial abundance that we have in the city. Everyone wants to do something. So it is up to us as a city, it's up to us as a government to ensure that we regulate them, and that is what we are trying to do.
Has Kampala Capital City Authority looked into the aspect of market structures that could be a hindrance for the vendors to occupy the available recently constructed markets, or rather prefer to transact on the streets?
Now, we had to go to sensitize the market people and also sensitize the vendors, as well as implement the president's directive. So we have taken back almost all the markets. And the other two, that is Busega and Kasubi, because Busega is yet to be completed, and Kasubi is a new market where vendors have just gotten in. Though it is within our administration, we have not yet elected or gotten representatives from the traders, and Busega we have not yet, because they have not yet shifted. So towards the end of December and up to the end of December and beginning of January, we have been sensitizing the vendors that there are alternative spaces where they can trade, as well as also informing them that we have options like the Sunday markets to ensure that people leave the streets. Now sensitization has been a key place. So it's a mindset change, it's a behavior change, and we are working on this. And we are sure we are going to have all the vendors of the streets and in designated places.
KCCA focuses on a more engaging process to deal with street hawkers and vendors off the streets for a more organized city.
Uganda Cranes head coach Jonathan McKinstry has equated the Uganda versus Morocco African Championship of Nations as a cup final. Uganda is bottom of Group C with just 1 point, but has a big chance if they get victory off table toppers Morocco. In the other group game, Rwanda plays Togo, with both teams eyeing victory to secure passage into the quarterfinals of the tournament that is a reserve for home-based players.
In a game of football, no one better provides words of motivation to players than the coach. This has come to the fore in Cameroon, where Uganda is preparing for a must-win game against Morocco in the African Nations Championship on Tuesday. As it stands, Uganda is bottom of Group C on 1 point, while Morocco tops with 4.
For us, first of all, it's about, if you've got anything left now, because they've put a lot of energy into the first 2 games, and now it's about everything they've got. There's no point in reserving energy for games in the future, because those games may not happen. If we reserve anything, it's going to be a waste. They need to go out onto the field and put absolutely every last ounce of energy out onto the field. That's the first thing. And look, when we get the result that we're aiming for, then yes, we'll have to rebuild them.
Rwanda in third on 2 points and Togo in second with 3 will also face off in a winner-takes-it-all game. The African Nations Championship is a football tournament organized principally for players playing in various local leagues. Uganda has played at 5 occasions but has never gone beyond the group stage.
It's a big game. It's a cup final attitude from the players. They know that it's winner takes all, And it's a big prize for us, you know. If we can do what we aim to do on Tuesday night, then I'm sure it'll be a night and a day and a game that's talked about in Ugandan football for many years to come. But we have to earn the right for that story to be written. But the mentality's good, and we just have to work for it.
For the task ahead, McKinstry will look to players like Shafiq Kajimu and Saidi Chayune for inspiration.
Of course, we wish the Uganda Cranes all the best in their endeavors to have that game into their favor. Thank you so much for watching. That brings us to the end of News Tonight. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa with Elizabeth Nakakoni and the whole team. We'll leave you with Molen Kenyana, who has the weather report here.
Yes, hello there. A very good evening and welcome you to the weather report tonight. My name is Molen Kenyana. Well, we had a rainy start of today across parts of Kampala, Entebbe and much of the Lake Victoria Basin. But later in the afternoon, we're seeing mostly across several places having those scattered showers. Now, according to our satellite analysis, we can see that we still have those northeasterly dry winds that are blowing in towards our country, and that is responsible for the dry and sunny conditions that we have, especially across the northern sector as well as parts of eastern Uganda. But at the same time, we have the effects of Lake Victoria enhancing wet weather activities across the Lake Victoria Basin as well as the southern sector. Now, tomorrow morning, I'll tell you this, we'll start off with some light showers. Those will be across parts of the Lake Victoria Basin as well as the southwestern part of the country. Otherwise, the rest of the country will have mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine. Later in the afternoon, we'll see more rains to western parts of the country and also parts of central. Otherwise, the rest of the country will remaining with mostly sunny intervals. Now, our daytime highs, we have a maximum of 26, quite cold weather. Also likely to have 28 for Jinja. And we are forecasting a warm day across the north. Temperatures will rise up to 30 and cold weather for Kabale Highlands. We have a maximum of 23 degrees. Now, some of the wild cities we have for you, if you're traveling beyond Uganda, we're forecasting sunny conditions for Cape Town. Mombasa, a very warm day over there. We have a maximum of 34 with sunny intervals. Also forecasting snow for New York and rainy conditions for Amsterdam. And also a sunny days forecast for Dubai at a maximum of 22 degrees. Well, that was tomorrow's weather forecast. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Molen Kenyana. Have a good day tomorrow.
A Myoga program is a presidential initiative on wealth and job creation meant to financially empower excluded Ugandans to move them from subsistence to the money economy and market-oriented production through provision of capacity building and access to seed capital. The program is open to all Ugandans organized in parish-based associations and constituency-based SACCOs operating the following enterprises: boda bodas, women entrepreneurs, carpenters, salon operators, taxi operators, restaurant owners, welders, market vendors, youth leaders, persons with disabilities, produce dealers, mechanics, tailors, journalists, performing artists, veterans, fishermen, and elected leaders. If you are eligible to benefit from this program, contact the Microfinance Support Center today by calling the toll-free number 0800-201010 or 0800-120024. This message is brought to you by the Microfinance Support Center Limited, supported by the Government of Uganda.
Welcome to English in a Minute. 50 years ago, the first humans stepped foot on the moon. But has anyone ever jumped over the moon?
Jonathan, guess what? My book is nominated for North American Wildlife Pop-Up Book for First Time Writers Prize.
Oh, wow. You must be over the moon.
I am, Jonathan. I could not be happier.
What was the name of that prize again?
To be over the moon means to be extremely happy about something. This expression likely comes from a short children's poem from the 16th century called Hey Diddle Diddle. But we don't really know why over the moon came to mean what it does today. And that's English in a Minute.
Welcome to the origin of the national resistance movement and its inception from the 1960s. This documentary covers the socio-political economic transformation of Uganda and what has been achieved since 1986. Achievements of the NRM revolution.
As we are just about to celebrate the 35th victory anniversary of the National Resistance Movement, I would like to invite you to this documentary, which is about a book I wrote with Dr. Gilbert Gumoshabe in 2015 on the achievements of the NRM revolution, what the NRM has achieved from the beginning up to now. But this documentary is updating it to the present because a lot has been done since 2015. From this picture of President Yoweri Museveni in the bush, who has been the leader of this revolution since the 70s to date, a lot you will see where and how the journey has been from where we have come from to where we are and whether we are surely going. You are welcome, and a luta continua. My latest song these days is Abogere Abogere Uganda Songa Mbere Songa Mbere Yubogere Abogere Uganda Songa Mbere. Thank you very much.
His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of Uganda, said, "Many people have been underestimating, underrating and minimizing the achievements of our struggle for many years of devoted, sacrificial and resilient efforts. Many young people, especially those who were born after 1980, have been misguided to minimize these achievements because they are not listed but rather hear from them in words. Instead of promoting values and increasing business, the leaders were busy promoting sectarianism based on tribes and religion. The diversity we have as a country should be the great asset to advance our socio, political and economic needs. I am happy that this book has come up to show the world what the NRM revolution, whose struggles goes back to the early 1960s, has achieved for this country. This has been after a lot of sacrifice. I urge Ugandans to read and watch and see where we came from, where we are, and where we are going. For God and my country. Uganda, geographically located on the eastern side of Africa, approximately covering 241,559 square kilometers. The name emanates from the colonial 1900 Buganda Agreement, when they removed letter B and forced all other existing kingdoms, chiefdoms and other areas that were not centralized. They divided communities and marked out boundaries following certain geographical features.
Uganda is a blessed country. And when you open that book of the achievements of the NRM revolution, you will see what we started with, that Churchill said about Uganda. Just that's why they called it the Pearl of Africa.
The 35 years of the NRM government has brought about peace, security and stability of Uganda that has enabled all these achievements to be made. Without peace, without security, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to get engaged in, it cannot be done. Once the peace is disrupted, then everything, even your rights, everything gets disrupted.
Uganda is a country which had a lot of problems. Top of the list was the stealing of lives of human beings. People are being slaughtered like chicken. Destroying the economy, destroying the animals in the national parks through poaching by soldiers, looting the people on the highways by soldiers. All these were stopped. They were stopped by the NRM.
When Amin came on the scene, we started trying to organize here internally. I was contacting by then Museveni was he went to Nairobi, he was doing the contacting Dar es Salaam and the rest. Me, I was here. That's what I was doing.
In the new Africa, one more independent country, the state of Uganda.
Uganda got her independence from the British on 9th of October 1962. This came after protracted negotiations at Lancaster House, which were attended by colonial administrators in Uganda and Uganda's representatives.
The 4th Battalion King's African Rifles becomes the 1st Battalion Uganda Rifles. And to replace the Union Jack, the black, gold and red flag of the new young state, Uganda is born again, free and independent.
Since independence, the baby nation Uganda faced extractive political and economic systems with the renowned, most famous regime of Idi Amin. The reign of terror started with many prominent people disappearing without trace, while others were being killed in cold blood.
The 24th of May, that is when the whole thing came. First, very early in the morning, the army invaded the palace. They arrested people there. The king was inside there. Mutesa was in the palace there. Because now he was no longer president, so he was in his palace in Mengo here. They arrested the princes, they arrested the princes, they arrested the Nabagarika, all these the big people were arrested and taken to Rwenzira.
I want to see that the whole Kampala street is not full of Indians. It must be proper black and administration in those shops is run by the Ugandans. I think they will be sitting like they are sitting on the fire. I will tell you this. You just wait after 3 months.
What will you do to them?
Okay, you will see.
At that time, Asians were really dominating the economic activities here. So factories closed, shops closed, things were no longer coming. These people had gone with all the information. The economy really went on its toes, on its knees.
Before Amin, Mr. Yoweri Museveni was working in the office of the president in Obote's government. Obote's regime was characterized by violation of human rights and significant fall of Uganda's economy. Mr. Yoweri Museveni had declared that if the elections were rigged, he would fight the government. True to his word, on 6th February 1981, Mr. Museveni went to the bush along with 26 other armed colleagues plus 15 other who were unarmed and started liberation war against the government in Luwero Triangle.
I want the world to understand this. The people of Uganda, the population, did not start violence. I was not a soldier, I was an intellectual. Why did I become a soldier? I became a soldier to defend myself and my people against state-inspired violence.
One given time, there came a lot full of soldiers. And then when they reached Matuga Trading Center, they scattered. In scattering, they started shooting whoever they could come across. And I said, what is all this? So there was no freedom.
When Amin attacked Kagera, and then the Tanzanians now started fighting back. So I felt that the actions of Amin's soldiers should really stop. And then that's when I joined the Liberation War.
Museveni went to the bush through Kabamba. I went to the bush through Eastern. But then later on, I joined Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, now the president, through Matuga, after they had come back, because I was left here to coordinate the soldiers who were, of course, going to be trapped as those suspects who were supporters of Museveni, especially the Fronasa group. In 1981, when Museveni left for attack at Kabamba, he sent me a message. He had gone and had started, so that we should mobilize. Again, we started mobilizing here for logistics.
On January 21st, 1986, Museveni ordered the Liberation Army to march to Kampala and overthrew Okello's government. Tito Okello and his UNLA army were grossly indisciplined and thoroughly discouraged. They couldn't match the skills of the NRA. They were disintegrated within a week of fighting. The capital city was captured on the 25th of January 1986. Museveni sworn in as Uganda's president on the 29th of January 1986.
And that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
By the time we captured Kampala, Kampala was just, I think, 5 hills. It was Kororo, Rubaga, Namirembe, and where is Makerere, and Nakasiru. I had a detach at Mukwano industry there. It was a bush. These criminals who used to escape there, to hide there and kill people.
Rebuilding the armed forces. One of the greatest achievements of the NRM revolution has been the creation of a pro-people armed force on which all the other achievements, political, economic and social and other progress have deepened. The restoration of confidence and protection of life and property of the people of Uganda and even the region has created great dividends and opened opportunities.
One of the greatest achievements of the national resistance movement has been the creation of a pro-people army, creation of ideas that have been protecting the interests of the public to ensure that peace is maintained everywhere up to now. How come that all the refugees from all these unstable neighbors in our region come to Uganda, where they find a home, where there is, which is their safe haven? How come that Uganda has one of the highest numbers of refugees? That is because there is peace, there is security, there is stability, there is good human relations, there is Pan-African spirit, and these are all achievements of the national resistance movement revolution.
We've had many military forces before, dating from our pre-colonial time. We had tribal armies here, and their agenda was to push tribal chauvinism. We had the Abamboa for Uganda, we had the Abalusura for Bunyoro, we had, I think, Enyana or Emitu for Ankole, etc., etc. We were colonized by the British, and they recruited some of our people to form proxy armies. For East Africa, it was the King's African Rifles. When they went in haste, elements of the KAR formed the officer corps of the post-independent Uganda First Army, in the names of Uganda Army. Still good name, but anything but Uganda. The army, which is supposed to guard the country, protect its territorial borders, ended up being a monster. That's when we first had a glimpse of state-inspired violence. The army ran amok, killing people, many of them prominent people.
A soldier could pick you up anywhere and finish you off. I have a good case. There was one gentleman whose name, for security reason, I will not mention. He had gone to a bar with his girlfriend, and this one soldier came and said, "Why do you have that useful girlfriend?" He was picked. Up to now, he has never appeared. We don't know. If you put up a list on nice house, then some soldiers will say, where do you get money from? You must be a muyekera. You must be a guerrilla. You are getting money from Tanzania. That day, the house either will be bombed or the owner of the house will be taken, and that will be taken at the end of the day.
In the bush, NRA High Commander was chairmaned by Yoweri Museveni, who was also Commander-in-Chief. The other members were Eria Kategaya, who was in charge of political and diplomatic affairs; Ahmed Seguya, who was the first overall commander but died in 1981. The late Sam Magara became the second overall commander but also died in 1982. Sam Magala was succeeded by Eli Tumwine, Salim Saleh, Caleb Akandranaho, the late Fred Rubereza, David Tunyefunza, the late Tadeo Kanyankole, Matayo Chaligonza, Emi Echaruhanga, the late Mutebi. And Kahinda Otafire.
UPDF has undergone many stages in its evolution until now, including the name, of course. It's now a quadru service force, as for services.
Initially, it started as a single service. It was only the army, or in simple terms, if I can unpack it, it was only the land forces element. Now we have 4 services. We have the Air Force as a distinct service, we have the Reserve Forces, we have the Special Forces Command, so we have 4 services. The Army or Land Forces, the Air Force, the Special Forces Command, the Reserve Forces, the 4 services. It's, of course, you know the leadership hierarchy, Commander-in-Chief by the Constitution, President.
The success of NRA or UPDF has basically been due to the able leadership under the Commander-in-Chief, who has at all times appointed the most competent commanders of the time. These include Ahmed Seguya, Colonel Sam Magara, General Eli Tumwine, General Caleb Akandanwaho, Salim Saleh, Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, General JJ Odong, Major General James Kazini, General Arunda Nyakairima, General Edward Katumba Wamala, and General David Muhozi.
You know, discipline was our major and the strongest support weapon we had in the bush.
What did we do? One, of course, we ensured that when we go out for recruitment, we recruit, first of all, people who have been saved by the community, by the public, by the people from within themselves. We don't, and that's why you have the requirement that for anyone to be recommended for recruitment, you must have a recommendation from the local council one. So that already, at the point of entry, there is that pro-people element. A lot of that is injected in during the training, where we emphasize that you are servant of the people, you are serving the people.
The UPDF has not only developed in only those 4, but it has also been engaged in production. The National Enterprise Corporation is contributing quite a lot, not only to industry, but the development of our capacity to manage our own affairs in defense and other sectors. The construction brigade, our engineering brigade that was created, which is going to help in many aspects, not only the railway, but in many aspects of construction of our country. And the Operation Wealth Creation, where the UPDF has been participating together with the NADIs, is another contribution to the development of Uganda.
The concept was bring together, first understand the architecture of the development process, who is doing what, where. And in the civilian economics, it doesn't apply. Everybody, we found everybody in their own silos, research in its own silo. Government, so we tried to give them a concept that could reorganize the whole development process, especially the rural development. And it has taken time, but it is beginning to shape up now.
The NRM developed a liberation manifesto, which they called a 10 points program. These included restoring real democracy, security, consolidation of national unity, and elimination of all forms of sectarianism, defending and consolidating of national independence, building an independent, integrated, and self-sustaining national economy, restoration and improvement of social services, and the rehabilitation of the war-ravaged areas, elimination of corruption and misuse of power, redressing errors that have resulted into dislocation of sections of the population and improvement of others, where service and development was affected by the previous bad regimes, cooperation with other African countries in defending human and domestic rights of our brothers in other parts of Africa, following an economic strategy of mixed economy. These were later expanded to 15 after a national-wide survey in preparation for the aspects that needed long-term planning, also addressing the issue of continuous growth and development. These included financing public infrastructure using internal borrowing and creating employment in the country, human resource development, capacity building in technical and public service sectors, preservation and development of our culture, consolidation of programs which are responsible to gender and marginalized groups, environmental protection and management. Rebuilding the nation.
Colonial masters were here for 78 years by the time they left in 1962. How much tarmac did they leave behind? How much? Because you hear people talking about during those days. How many universities did they leave? One. How many schools did they leave behind? You had only the likes of Untali, Budo, Muiri, very few of them.
The first 10 years of the NRM government, I was a student, but I was able to see and I have read what transpired. It started with rehabilitating the economy. There was a ministry called Ministry of Rehabilitation, largely trying to put back in place what had been destroyed. Gradually, they started opening up roads, they started opening up industries, but it was still minimal.
In some cases, including my own case, we used to use pawpaw leaves for washing. Get pawpaw leaves, you crush them, and you wash. No sugar, toothpaste, and you take a piece of textile. You had only to do it to get it from Nairobi. If you got your friend who is going to Nairobi, you normally would say, please bring me one cake of rice bowl. That's the situation in which you are. The economy was absolutely down.
Between 1971 and 1980, it declined by minus 2.9%. Between 1986 and 2015, the economy grew at an annual average rate of 6.9%, 6.92, while per capita income grew at an annual average rate of 3.6% over the same period. No European country, not even the United States, except West Germany, between 1950 and 1980, which was able to do 3.8%, has grown its per capita income at the same rate as Uganda over a period of 3 decades. When I started the Uganda Manufacturing Association with the late James Murwana, we had 80 factories only. We are now talking of 5,000 factories. We have been able to create jobs, as you saw those people working there. Those are not Chinese, they are not Indian, they are Ugandan. Those are your children working there in those factories. We reject tribalism. We support the integration of East Africa to build a common market of East Africa and of Africa, and even to work for the Federation of East Africa, because that's where the future is. Following the footsteps of our elders whom you see there.
From 1962, Presidents Obote and Amin combined tarmacked only 1,000 kilometers with second-hand tarmac or bitumen.
The infrastructure was down. I remember the first time I came from Ushenyi coming to Kampala in 1987. In 1986. That was around July. It took me more than 12 hours from Bushenyi to Kampala.
What has changed? in terms of the road network, for example. By 1986, of the 2,000 kilometers of roads which were paved, only 350 kilometers were motorable. The others were in solid state. 350 kilometers were good in motorable condition. Today, we have 5,380 kilometers of tarmac motorable road that you can wake up in the morning at one side, at one border of Uganda, and by the evening at the other end of the border. You can start from Welegu in the morning, and by the evening you're in Chanika. We have a number of ferries crossing, like on Choga, the Zengebes, the Wat. Recently we commissioned the ferry to Buvuma. We have Kalangala ferries here which are working.
Today will go down in history is the day when Uganda Airlines took a giant step forward in actualizing your vision for the rebirth of the national airline. So for us, in terms of stages, we see the airline as a promise kept. The government said they would start, and the airline started on time. And government said they would provide the funds that are required to pay for the aircraft. Again, the aircraft were ordered and the planes arrived on time and on budget. So the airline is there to brand Uganda, which is to market it worldwide. And that's why you see a very strong brand which is centered on the flag of Uganda on delivery of the aircraft. What contribution will it bring? The first one is the import substitution that we talked about, which is 500 million was going out of this economy, is now staying and being reinvested in. That is the first one. Secondly, the airline creates employment in the country. Aviation, to which Ugandans were not participating for over a period of 18 years. And now we have got 250 people being employed. And if you multiply that with the families and dependents, it's a huge impact to the economy that you are looking at.
There has been improved access to health facilities over time. By 1986, access to health centers was 40% for people living in urban centers and 1.9% of the rural habitants. It has increased since 1986 from 40% to 87% in the urban areas, while rural areas at 12%. Life expectancy has increased from 41 to 64 years for men by 2019, while 43 to 65 for women. Infant mortality has reduced from 188 per live birth in 1986 to 76 by 2010, and it moved further down since then. One of the sectors that bring about socio-economic transformation of society is education. The need for education was identified and the government took it up to provide it. This was realized after 70% of Ugandans not having access to education. The NRM government took the initiative and started universal education at different levels. By 1986, Uganda had only one university, which was Makerere University. Its capacity to take many students was being curtailed by lack of funds. As a result, only 1,800 could be admitted. All the rest who qualified had to either join other institutes of learning or drop out. Universities have since increased tremendously to cater for Uganda's education needs. After After the swearing-in of His Excellency, the President of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, on the 29th day of January 1986, on the stairs of the Parliament, he appointed the first cabinet to work with. This was charged to restoring hope to Ugandans by implementing the 10 Points program.
Nobody should think that what is happening today, or what has been happening in the last few days, is a mere change of guards. Because in Africa we have seen so much change that change has become meaningless.
There are very many elements of that change. The first one was to go from the politics of identity to the politics of interests. What are your legitimate interests? Like prosperity. We want all our families to be prosperous. They need to sell their products, to sell their services. So the politics should be around organizing for them infrastructure, markets, so that they sell their products and become prosperous. That's what politics should be about, not about this religion, that tribe. So that was one of the fundamental changes. It's really good to have politics based on the popular will of the people. Whether the popular will is expressed through parties or through what they call proportional representation, that's a detail. But the fundamental base is that the people should elect their governments at regular intervals. Political future of Uganda is good because we solved all the issues in the past when we gave power to the people.
The President has at all times been helped by eminent Ugandans that serve as Vice Presidents since 1986. These include Honorable Edward Kiwanuka II, serving from 2011 to date, Dr. Gilbert Bukenya, who served from 2003 to 2011, Dr. Specioza Wandira Kaziwe, who served from 1994 to 2003, and lastly, His Excellency Dr. Samson Chiseka, who served from 1991 to 1994. The President has also appointed able Prime Ministers to assist him manage the implementation of government activities. The following have served since 1986. Right Honorable Ruhakana Rugunda, from 2014 to date. Right Honorable John Patrick Amama Mbabazi, from 2011 to 2014. Right Honorable Professor Apollon Sibambi, from 1999 to 2011. Right Honorable Chintu Musoke, from 1994 to 1999. Right Honorable George Cosmas Adiebo, from 1991 to 1994. Right Honorable Dr. Samson Chiseka, from 1986 to 1991.
When you run a government that is constitutional, that is law-abiding, every person is free to live in that country and to have the confidence to know that they won't be intimidated. Nobody is above the law. Whoever does anything wrong will answer to the law. And Uganda therefore became a free country and really modern and democratic.
We have recovered. We have now gone into a mode of development.
Currently, the goal of government is to move from the peasant level, where most of our farmers are, to an industrialized country. Yes, to move to a middle-income country. We are doing that by increasing productivity and increasing the exports and increasing the what we process and put on the market.
For milk, we have now moved from 200,000 liters, the whole of Uganda. Now we are talking about 2.5 billion liters of milk. We have maize. The whole of Uganda will not produce 500,000 bags. Now we are about 5 or 6 or 7 million bags. The animal sector, we have now moved to 15 million heads of cattle across the country, from about 5 in 1986. We have the poultry industry. That one was negative. Now we have about 60 million bags. We have moved really. So the agriculture sector suffered during the bad times of those dictators and the wars. It was not spared. But during this time of NRM, we are really moving very fast.
One of the special interest groups that have realized maximum benefits are the women. Before NRM, women struggled doubly hard to obtain any participatory role in the treasures and benefits bestowed upon human beings by divine generosity irrespective of sex. The NRM government ended this by putting them at the forefront in all government activities and private sector. President Yoweri Museveni appointed Dr. Specioza Wandera Kaziwe as the first woman vice president in the history of Uganda. Since 2011, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga has been holding the third highest office of Speaker of the Parliament, having served as a Deputy Speaker for 10 years.
We have at least 33% of the members of Parliament are women, and in Cabinet 35% are women. And yes, we do have a big number of women leaders in leading organizations of government and departments, and it is our government's policy really to promote women's leadership, and it is happening.
Well, this journey of the NRM revolution has been a steady, resilient, continuous revolution that has been guided by the NRM ideology, deliberately following that ideology that has, right from the beginning, guided us, right from when we started the Bush War in 1981, has been that ideology that His Excellency the President has really been explaining very well. And it's that ideology that has been deliberately followed and has brought us this far.
An ideology is what we call in philosophy an easy